Okay, let's get started. Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Monday night web trainings here in the Matt Warren organization, which is a big organization. My name is Eric Lichter, and I'm joining you guys from Columbus, Ohio. My wife, Anne Marie, and I have been involved in Advocare. We just completed our fourth year. It's amazing how time goes by, it flies. And I come from a coaching background. I formerly was a college football coach and an entrepreneur. I own my own training centers, my businesses that I started uh, from scratch. And I just got the text that I'm good to go and the audio is working. So that's good. Uh, as I was saying, I'm a former college football coach and also an entrepreneur. My wife was a part-time coach and a full-time mom. We have four kids, and what Advocare has provided for us really is life on our terms. And we've been feel so blessed to have this vehicle and to be able to help so many people across this country with the two things that matter most, health and finances. And so I'm gonna train tonight. I'm gonna really get to the point, but I wanted to just say that in our world, if you're taking Advocare as a vehicle to supplement your income, if you're looking at Advocare to provide more in your life, more yeses, more flexibility, more control of your life, there's great comfort in knowing that there's just so much support. That there's such a team. If you're on this training, then you're part of Matt Warren's team, and there's so many leaders, so many great leaders, cross line, whatever lineage of that you fall in, and whoever your diamond is. We operate as a team, as a community, and Matt and Amber just do a great job of building that community and really providing such continuity and flow and support. And so whether it's the people, people will help you here and help you be successful. Whether it's the uh, just all the trainings that are out there and all the things that support your growth in Advocare as you move along, there are certain things that you have to know. There are certain how-tos and there are certain things, for example, like understanding the metrics of your business and how your business grows and being able to answer questions and learning reports and knowing the ins and outs of product training and this and that. But uh, there's been so many trainings on the X's and O's of building Advocare, whether it's the comp plan, understanding that, or whatever it is, and those things are all important. But what I want to really talk to you guys tonight about is what I think not only success in Advocare, but success in life really comes down to. And it's not really the external things that are around you, it's really the internal thing, and that's you. And so tonight, I'm going to really just get right to it about what I think it comes down to, and it's really about you and and the way, where your mental state is, what your mindset is, and what you really want. So I'm going to make some really strong statements tonight. Like I said, I come from a coaching background, and I'm going to get right to the point and be blunt. But this is really going to take a look inside you, and so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. So just give me a second. And what I hope to leave you with is, I want you to, if you have a pen and a pad, I want you to write these things down. I'm going to give you four things that I will elaborate on quickly. And, I want you to write these things down. Obviously, you will have the ability to watch this over and over again. But as I leave the first thing up on the screen that it takes to just be successful in life, just period, is that you have to want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe. And, you know, as you write that down, how bad is that? How do I measure that? And it's a fight or flight type of response. And I want you to think, I want everybody that's watching this to think about intentionally being drowned and your head is forced underwater. And I want you to visualize and I want you to internalize what it must feel like to have no air and to feel the pain that mounts in your lungs for the 30 seconds or so that your mind, that your nervous system, and every system in your body that is stressed to the absolute max. It's stressed to the maximum because you're out of oxygen. And consciously, you know, and subconsciously, your body is in the fight of its life, knowing that if you don't get oxygen within the next 10 or 15 seconds, the lights are going to go out on your life. And if you caught that visual, or if you just felt that, even if you just internalize that, there's probably some anxiety there. And I want you to just pause for a moment. And I want you to know that there are some, it's not many, but there are some people on this earth that want to succeed as bad as they want to breathe air. And it's mentally, it's emotionally, and internally. It's a level that most of the world, that most of the people in this world think they understand, but they don't. They don't understand it. And when you want something this bad, you know, it becomes, it's hard to sleep, it's hard to eat, it's hard to think about anything else. It becomes an obsession. It's a movement. It's an infatuation. It engrosses your entire self. And I want you to think, as you see this, this, what I have up on the screen. Do you know what the opposite of being obsessed is? The opposite of being obsessed is it's being indifferent. It's hatred. It's intolerance. That's the opposite. Have you heard that word before? There's been a lot of trainings recently where that word of intolerance has been used. And so, for every action, there really is an equal and opposite reaction. And so a lot of times it's the intolerance that drives the obsession. You see, if you don't have this level of drive in you, it's because you probably have too much comfort in your life, that you will never become intolerant or reach the level of those, who are playing at a level that most don't even know exists. Okay, if you just have, like I said, if you have enough comfort in your life, you'll never reach the intolerant level that I'm talking about. And success is defined by individuals. It's defined by each person, and it's not solely based on money, for sure. We know that. But the top 10 percenters in anything, whether it's income, whether it's business, athletes in sports, etc., they don't reach comfort easily and see success only as a temporary result and never an end destination. And they are driven more, way more, by the fear of failure, or the realization that failure looms always. They're driven way more by that. And failure is never fatal to this group. The top 10 percenters, that failure is not fatal to them, but they learn from failure and they avoid it at all costs. And when you take this group and you break them down even further to the top 1 percenters of anything, the top 1 percenters of this group are completely obsessed with the process, obsessed with a never-ending calling to reach beyond where they've ever been, to reach way up into the sky without limits. They build their lives, and and the impact of their lives, it's like a skyscraper. They're all, it's built like skyscrapers, always looking to add another floor or ascend even higher than before. And this group truly is out to change the world. So I can't give you an exact formula for it, or I can't identify it, or I can't identify it within the DNA of someone. I can see it. I can see someone and I can say they have it. I can just tell you that it comes down to hunger. It comes down to hunger. Talent isn't above it. Experience isn't more important than it. Intelligence won't conquer it. It comes down to hunger and appetite. It comes down to how much you want it. The next thing I want to share with you as you write this down, and I'm going to leave this up as I talk a little bit about it, is you have to endure pain. I wish this wasn't the case. I wish everything would be easy and that you wouldn't be tested with failure or hard times, that the process and the journey were pain-free and it would just work out for you. But it's not that way. No human, animal, species, entrepreneur, inventor, athlete, whatever, becomes successful without overcoming pain or failure or rejection, negativity, resistance, barriers, and so on, and some more than others. And behind every success is endured pain. It's the way it is. The pain, the struggle, the hurt, the blood, the tears, they're invisible for the most part. Most of the world, most of us, we see success in successful people and it shines like the sun. But what you don't see that came long before the sun started shining. Humans fail before they succeed. Animals will face the environment and they must adapt or they face extinction. The immune system must be attacked before it makes antibodies to fight back. It's life, and there really is no other way. So what I want you to do is I want you to embrace it, and I want you to build your pain tolerance or suffer ruin. The third thing I want to share with you in tonight is success in life and Advocare is going to come down to you sacrificing what you are for what you will become. So write that down. This is the third point that I want to drive home. You have to sacrifice what you are for what you become. If the current state of where you are and what you have become isn't appealing to you, then you need to follow a different set of beliefs or rules or behaviors or get programmed in a different way. I mean, think about it. You are where you are today because of pretty much decisions, attitudes, choices, relationships, careers that you have chosen. Until you can face that and realize that you must stop certain habits and get out of the rhythm that you are in. You must interrupt these rhythms and these patterns. Quit quit watching, quit watching every football game on TV during the fall. Give up the nightlife and going out every weekend. Miss a child's soccer game every now and then so that one day, you can sponsor the entire team or the league. If you're the only parent ever seeing your kid's game and it's always, well, I got to see Johnny's game, then sacrifice a game or two so that one day your spouse will be able to see those games as well. Why have you missed the last two or three trainings, that have been led by the person who has the lifestyle, the freedom that you want? Why aren't you going to success school? Why aren't your teammates going to success school? What excuses are you making or letting others make? I've heard them all. I've heard them all, guys. And this is the only, I've heard this is the only vacation we have planned in the last 5 years. And it's during success school. It's during that time we can't go and listen to that. Your excuse should be your reason. Why are you not taking a vacation each year? That's what I think sometimes. That's what I ask. It's because you can't. Do you want to change that? Another one I hear is we can't afford to go. If you can't afford to go to success school, how can you afford to pay your living expenses for 6 months if the unexpected happens? You can't. You're living check to check with no reserves. Your excuse should be your reason. Sleep in your car. Ask your leader to put you in touch with others in the same situation, in the same boat. Carpool together and split the gas. Don't make excuses. Find a solution, and you will start to change the rhythms and the patterns of behavior that will lead you to what you really ultimately want to become. And again, I told you I was going to make some strong statements tonight. And, the problem is that most in life, we look at obstacles like mountains and we're scared. We don't want to endure the pain. We don't want to climb that high because it's hard. I watch most people, they would rather just keep putting band-aids on their life. All the while, they bleed their entire life. I made a decision. It took me a while, but I made a decision that not me, I won't do it. I've been on both sides of the fire. And I can tell you that the pain and the burn of running through the flames is worth it because of what is on the other side. The growth and the hardening, the spirit, what's on the other side is worth the pain. So I would encourage you to sacrifice. If you want more, then you must sacrifice where you are for what you will become to have more. And the last one I want to really, really hammer home. This is it. Don't ever quit. Don't ever quit in life. Don't quit on your dreams. Don't quit on your family. Don't quit on your kids. Don't quit on Advocare. Don't quit on teammates. Don't ever, ever quit in anything. You can't have it back. How committed are you? How committed are you? I'm going to tell you guys the most remarkable true story I've ever heard about total commitment. And this story that I'm going to tell you happened in the 1920s in San Francisco. And here's the background on the story. It involves one by the name of Cappy Bix, a retired successful owner of the Bix Logging and Lumber Company in San Francisco. His son-in-law, Matt Peasley, who was now running two of the sister or subsidiary businesses of the company, an executive named Skinner, who was in upper level management, and a disabled World War I veteran named William E. Peck. Those are the four players in this story. And at the time of this story, the company was at a particularly tough time with its business overseas, and it was dealing with. It discovered that an employee that had been promoted within the last year by Skinner and Peasley and was sent overseas to run the Shanghai operation, their Shanghai arm of this operation, had run that division into the ground, and they had found out that he embezzled lots of money, and it was a disaster. So as Cappy, Bix, and Peasley and Skinner were reevaluating their hiring policies and how they promote and the methods for determining a go-getter. Their philosophies and ideas couldn't be further apart from one another. You know, Skinner was an ultra conservative and was kind of referred to as a stick in the mud by Cappy Bix. And keep in mind, Cappy Bix, who was kind of retired and on the sideline, had built the company, into the empire originally. So Cappy thought Skinner was a stick in the mud and was old school and didn't act with initiative ever, took no risks, and believed that experience, a strong resume, and being of a certain age and actual years were the most important qualities in hiring top level people. Peasley, who was Bix's son-in-law, was still cutting his teeth in being president of Blue Star Navigation, which was just a sister company of Bix Lumber. As they spent a few weeks going through the personnel of their companies, it dawned on Cappy Bix that both Skinner and Peasley lacked the ability to pick the successor for the Shanghai territory. They lacked the ability to find a go-getter. And during that time, the secretary rang into Cappy's office one day and said a young man was waiting in the reception room and demanded to meet with you personally and wouldn't take no for an answer. Cappy was perplexed because he didn't have any meetings scheduled with anybody, but he invited the young man in anyway. And so in comes a young man in his 20s walking with a very noticeable limp. He's using a cane to balance and he's missing an arm. And he had a peg leg that he had lost in World War I as a young soldier. William E. Peck walked in and said, "I saw the ad for work with your company and I am here for my job." And that caught Cappy's attention. He said, "It's your job already." And so they talked briefly, and Cappy was very impressed, and he suggested that he go talk to Skinner to get set up with the job. Well, Peck explained that he'd already went to see Skinner and that he wasn't very empathetic and may have jumped to a conclusion that Peck had no merit. Peck and Cappy began to talk even further, and Peck went on to educate Mr. Biggs on his time in the military and his work as a salesman with another lumber company following the war. The older and wiser ex-CEO became even more impressed and instructed Peck this time to go see his son-in-law Peasley. Well, Peck replied, "I have gone to see Mr. Peasley as well." And while he was more empathetic, he said times were just so bad right now that he just can't hire any new workers, and he's already providing jobs for veterans just to help them out and is losing money on those jobs. So to advance the story, Cappy ended up calling in Skinner, and he told him that he was to hire Peck for a fair wage and to put him to work as a salesman selling their lowest quality lumber that would for sure be impossible to give away, never mind sell, and that if he proved himself with this task, then he would have proved himself worthy of a promotion and an even fairer wage. Well, this infuriated Skinner, but he did it nonetheless. A month went by, and Peck was selling so much of the junk lumber that Skinner had to suspend sales because they could not keep up with the demand of Peck's orders. Cappy Biggs was so impressed with Peck that he had Skinner call Peck on a Sunday morning and invited him to come into the office to meet with Skinner. When Peck arrived at the office, Skinner handed Mr. Peck the phone, and it was Mr. Biggs on the line. He said, "Peck, I need for you to go down 2 blocks of a certain street in San Francisco near the church that I go to. I will give you the coordinates, and on the corner of this certain street you will find a store that has a blue vase. I want you to buy the vase. Don't worry, it is very inexpensive, and I need the vase for a friend of mine who is celebrating his anniversary. The blue vase goes with a set of vases that I bought for them last year, and it's very important to him. I want you to meet me at the railroad car going to Santa Barbara, which leaves San Francisco tonight at 7:55 p.m. And on car 7, stateroom A is where you'll find me. Bring me that blue vase. Can you do that for me, Mr. Peck?" Peck's response was, "It will be done, and I will do it." With that, Peck got on his one crutch and he hobbled down the street to find the blue vase. He could not find any store that had a blue vase in the window. He stopped, he scratched his head, and he said, "My boss was very specific about the directions. This is where I was supposed to go, but maybe I misunderstood him." So he walked 2 blocks in each direction, north, south, east, west. 2 hours later in the afternoon, he finds the store with the blue vase in the window. But keep in mind, it's a Sunday and the store is closed. Determined to find a way to get the blue vase, Peck saw in the window of the store the owner's name. The name read capital B period Cones Art Store. Capital B period, then Cones, Cones Art Store. Well, he thought to himself, I'll go to the phone, look up Mr. Cones. I'll go to the phone book. I'll look up all the B cones that are in San Francisco, and I'll find them. So he looks in the phone book. There's 9 B cones is in the phone book in San Francisco. He calls them all. They all answer on a Sunday, and none of them own an art store. So he says, well, this is downtown San Francisco. Maybe I will go. Maybe they're in the suburbs. So he looks through the phone for all the suburbs, and he looks in Palo Alto, Salisoto. He looks through all the suburbs of San Francisco looking for B cones, and he comes up with no luck. So he says to himself, hold on here, guys. Hold on 1 second. I want to make sure give me 1 second here. My screen just disappeared on me. I've got to read this story to you. Give me 1 second here. Bear with me. My apologies. What the heck happened to my notes? Holy smokes. Here we go. So anyway, here we go. So he looks up, he looks through all the suburbs, he can't find the Beacombe. So he says, you know what? He goes back to the store and he figures that he is going to break in. He sits there and he thinks, he says, I'm going to go back, and what I'll do is I will break into the store. I will get the vase. I will leave a note and say I'll be back, and I will pay for the vase and the damages the next day. However, when he gets and he walks back to the store, he sees a cop standing in front of the store. So that leaves that suggestion out. But as he's standing there frustrated, he notices that the name in the window was he spelled it incorrectly. Frustrated and thinking, man, what a waste of time. He noticed in the window that the B Cones was spelled Kones. And he just got so frustrated and said, what a waste of time. So he goes, I'm going to go back and I will call all the Coneses in San Francisco, Kones. And he finds 9 B Cones spelled Kones. He calls all of them. He does not find any Cones who own an art store. So he does the same thing. He goes through and he makes all these phone calls to the suburbs. He finally finds the B Cones. He finds them and he gets a hold of them, and he's the guy who owns the art store. However, a butler answers the phone, and he will not go get Mr. Cones, who is having dinner on an island. He will not go get him, and Peck insists. He insists. He says, I must speak to him. I must speak to him. So Peck says, you tell Mr. Cones to come get on this phone. His store in downtown San Francisco is burning down. So, of course, Mr. Cones gets on the phone, and he says to him, Peck explains the situation. Cone says, you know what? This is crazy. It's a Sunday. It's late at night, but I'm not coming down there. But I'll tell you who can help you. I have a man who works for me. He lives in San Francisco. His name is Yost. So Cones gives Peck Yost's phone number. Peck calls Yost. Of course, he can't get a hold of Yost. He's told that he is at a party in a country club. So what Peck does is he calls all the country clubs in San Francisco. He can't get a hold of, there's no Yost at any of the country clubs. So he then proceeds to call all the country clubs in the suburbs of San Francisco. He finally gets a hold of Yost. He explains the situation to him, and he says, I need you to come down and sell me that vase. So Yost agrees to come down to the store and sell Yost the vase. But in the meantime, he's thinking that this guy must be crazy. And, he brings 2 cops with him down, and he somehow convinced Mr. Yost to come down and let him in the store to purchase the vase. Mr. Yost shows up with 2 cops, figuring the guy Peck, has to be a wacko to want this blue vase in the middle of a Sunday night. Yost lets Peck in, and Peck says, how much for the vase? Yost says $2,000. Peck falls to one knee. This was 80 years ago, keep in mind, when $2,000 was a lot of money. Peck didn't have $2,000, but he remembered he had something else very valuable that he acquired while he was in the war. He asked Yost if he could appraise a diamond's value and swap the diamond if it was worth enough to get the vase. Yost says yes and determined that the diamond is worth $1,500, enough for Yost to let Peck have the vase. Peck got the vase, but it was very late at night. The train left at 7:55 p.m. and it was too late. But Peck had an alternate plan. He had a good friend that owned a small plane. Peck convinced his friend to fly him to catch the train. They felt they could catch that train somewhere between San Francisco and Santa Barbara, and they did. They landed in a field in Monterey. Peck got out of the plane, hobbled onto the tracks, rolled up a newspaper, and set fire to it. He flags down the train with the burning newspaper. The train comes to a screeching halt. Peck gets to car 7 where his boss is, knocks on the door, wakes Cappy up, and in total disbelief, Cappy says to Peck, you have the vase. You actually have the vase. I can't believe it. Mr. Peck, this has never happened before. Peck says to his boss, I'm sorry for being so late with the delivery, but at least you have it to give to your friend in Santa Barbara tomorrow for his anniversary. The boss says, I'm not worried about the vase. It's only worth $1. Peck shouts, $1? I paid $2,000 for it. Cappy replies, oh, no, that's what we told them to tell you. And we put the cop in front of the store to keep you from breaking in. And we changed the sign on the door and altered the spelling of Cones to make you think you misread or misspelled his name. We thought for sure that would stop you. By now, our World War I veteran is furious and now realizes it was a trick, a cheap joke. He was set up. Peck says to his boss, "You mean you played a trick on me?" His boss replies, "No, no way this was a trick. This was a test. We give this test to everybody we hire who we are interested in promoting. We call it the test of the blue vase." Peck is bewildered. He's totally frustrated. His boss continues, "Every time we see a talented young man in an organization, we give him the test. Nobody, nobody ever gets it done because the cop stops them from breaking in. The millions of phone calls the guy has to make, the name change of Cones and another million phone calls, and the guy we have on the island having dinner giving excuses why he can't come down and open his store. Mr. Peck, how did you do it? Why did you persevere? Why did you give in? Why didn't you give in and quit?" With tears running down his cheekbones, Peck gently replies, "When I was a soldier in the Army, I had a sergeant that taught us and instilled in us that whenever we were given an assignment, our reply was to be, 'It will be done, and I will do it.' That's how I was trained. That's how I perform. I lost my arm and half my leg in battle when I was asked by my sergeant to take out an Austrian sniper that was causing severe casualties to our unit. But it was to be done, and it was up to me to do it." Apologize, guys, for getting lost in the story. My notes completely disappeared. I don't know what happened, but it is what it is. You get the point. It's actually a true story. It's out of a book called The Go-Getter. And I heard this story when I was first in junior college, and I want to describe commitment to you because that is about as committed as I have ever of anything I've ever heard of or seen. Keep in mind back when that was. And commitment is what transforms a promise into reality. It is the words that speak boldly of your intentions and the action which speaks louder than your words. It is the making of time when there is none, coming through time after time, year after year. Commitment is the stuff that character is made of, the power to change the face of things. It is the daily triumph of integrity over skepticism. So, as I share that with you guys, I just want to leave you with this. And I first, again, heard that story from my college football coach when I was in junior college. Some of you know that I coached at Ohio State. Ohio State won a championship, a national championship in 2002. It was an incredible year where they endured and they persevered and they just did whatever it took to get the job done. They blue-vased it. And I never knew this. I was hired by Coach Tressel in 2006. I had no idea that he ever knew my junior college football coach, Coach John Aviantos, who told me the story of the blue vase, who probably did a much better job than I did. He's told it more than I. That was my first attempt at it. However, when I found out that Jim Tressel had hired John Avignat to come and speak to the Ohio State team in 2002, the night before they played Miami in the national championship, when they were extreme underdogs. He told them the story of the Blue Vase, and it was a culmination and it was symbolic of their season. That team had done whatever it took. They were committed beyond what anybody can imagine. They were committed like William E. Peck to bring that blue vase, that it was to be done and it was up to him to do it. And so what I want to leave you with tonight is those four things. What Advo success comes down to is really how bad do you want it? If you want it, you will find a way. It doesn't matter what you know, you can get all that. You will find a way. Okay? You're going to have to endure pain. You're going to have to sacrifice where you are today for what you will become. And you must never quit. You must blue vase it. I have my own blue vase literally in my house. I keep this blue vase and it's symbolic. And what I want to challenge everybody to do is one, go out and buy that book. It's called The Go-Getter. It's 70 pages. It's an easy read. And the story of William E. Peck and this quest for the blue vase is in there. And I want to encourage every one of you to go down to Michael's, spend $1 or two, buy yourself a blue vase. Again, not the $2,000 blue vase, but the $1 blue vase. Get that. Let it be symbolic of what we shared tonight. And let it remind you that in life, in Advocare, in everything, don't ever quit. Be committed. Do whatever it takes. It will be done, and you will do it. I want to leave you guys with that as we close here. I think it's going to be about 5 weeks. We're all heading down to Success School. I hope to meet a lot of new faces and hear a lot of new and exciting stories of people and success and moving forward in their lives. Okay. I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight, and I want to wish you all good night. Thank you. Bye bye.